I really wasn't expecting there to be a bridge here. That complicates things a bit.
Don't bother with DreadOut. There was a time when that's all I wanted to write and say about DreadOut, but for the sake of keeping up quality standards, I'll endure. But without mincing words, DreadOut is the worst game I've reviewed so far in 2014. Developed by Digital Happiness and produced by PT Digital Semantica, DreadOut is a third-person survival horror game trying to cash in on the successes of much better and more inspired horror games like Fatal Frame. A group of students on a trip finds their route leads them to a broken bridge and a worn-out town. Inside the town is a dilapidated school where most of the action in DreadOut takes place. Ignoring all signs of caution for their safety, the group of students, including their teacher, decide to explore the collapsing buildings. Day mysteriously turns into night in an instant, and the lead character, Linda Melinda, has to search through the school and find the keys to escape. The school is haunted by a very small handful of ghosts that she fights back using the camera on her smartphone. There's no doubt the game has potential. It's what attracted me to picking it up in the first place, but unfortunately, any decent idea the game has is marred by the abysmal gameplay and terrible design. The graphics are dated, and not in a charming 8-bit sort of way. Even for an indie title, they're terrible, and most games from the PlayStation 1 and 2 era will put this to shame. The entire game suffers from horrible character models, animations, and lip syncing. The problem is only made worse by the poor voice acting and translation. But of course, graphics don't make the game. Gameplay is more important, and I'm sad to say that DreadOut is filled with illogical puzzles, and as a whole, the game isn't scary, and it's pretty boring to boot. The first major ghost encountered in the game is the most impressive thing about DreadOut. This large half-boar, half-man is so detailed and so well animated, it almost seems like it was created by an entirely different studio. But its time in the game is short-lived, and it doesn't present any real threat. Almost none of the ghosts do. In fact, I only died twice in the game, both times to the final boss, and both of those were due to the fact that the game stun-locked me into total submission. Death brings you to a minigame, and I use that phrase reluctantly, in which you walk in a straight line towards the light. Each time you die, your jaunt to the light is a little longer. It is a tedious death mechanic. Gamers can pick up DreadOut for $15 with the promise that Part 2 of the game will release in the near future as DLC, but unless Part 2 is a completely different experience, it's not worth your hard-earned time or money. There's plenty of room in the video game world for decent horror games, and the indie scene is picking up the slack where AAA devs have left off. But DreadOut falls so far short of the mark in all regards, we can only hope this review helps a few consumers make a more informed purchasing decision. Horrible graphics, terrible puzzles, tedious gameplay, perhaps 1 or maybe 2 jump scares in an hour experience for $15. The horror genre has seen and deserves much better. Don't bother.